I wanted to actually talk about the future of space for and space exploration for people and humankind, really. But why do you think it's important for us as a species? Now that you've been to space, what, 3 times, gone on these amazing missions, and you've piloted the space shuttle, why do you think it's important for us as people to still continuously go up there, even though they're extremely expensive and like, why is this a thing? Why do we need to do it?
You know, it should be clear to everyone at this point that we are slowly destroying the environment that protects us here on Earth, right? Should be pretty obvious. Whether it's you can use whatever words you want: global climate change, too many people, um, too few freedoms, or freedoms disappearing as we populate the Earth, food problems, whatever it is. The Earth is heading south in terms of its ability to support our population. Um, I used to think that because of that, we should find another place to live so that when Earth died, which it ultimately will anyway, that we'll be able to sustain the species. But after working at Blue Origin for a number of years and talking with the founder about this, I have adopted his view, and that is that we should develop the capability to move people into space, and not only for resources, to tap resources out there, energy, but also to take some of the nastier industrial processes off the surface of the planet and out of our atmosphere so that we can um, bring Earth back to life as the best place to live in the universe, and one that is sustainable. So that we go into space not to live there, but to make life back on Earth better and more sustainable. That's where I'm at today.
I appreciate you mentioning that. It reminds me of something uh, recent, very well known actor had talked about his experience when he went up on the Blue Origin shuttle, New Shepard. And he had talked about how his excitement suddenly changed to this almost grieving sensation. And he talked about his realization that when he looked down at the planet and then he looked around in space and just feeling like this planet is special, we should be protecting it. We shouldn't necessarily be looking for another planet to set up shop. We should be looking for a way to fix the planet that we're on, because it is very, very special. And I'm in the same boat. So did you, when you launched, did you ever have that moment where you're looking back at the planet and kind of realizing you had kind of a different perspective on where we were as a species, or where the importance of the Earth, really?
Oh yes, I mean you can't fly into space and look back without being moved by the small size, the very, very thinness of our atmosphere that keeps all of us alive, the absence of boundaries, the darkness and coldness, vacuum in the vacuum of space. These are all things that you can't escape when you go there. One of the things that I've wondered about, and this, if you've, I know you've heard the term, the overview effect is what this called, and it's been documented by psychologists. This change in people that go to space and come back, this change in their core values from having this experience. I mean, they typically go from very independent, competitive driven people to people that come back really concerned about the greater good, the more common good for everyone on the planet. And certainly that's the transition I underwent. The question I had at Blue Origin when I was working there was, would people who traveled aboard a suborbital rocket and had that view from a lower altitude and only for a few minutes, would those people be similarly impacted? Would they experience the overview effect? Would their core values change such that they came back to the Earth wanting to make a difference?
That's
That
yeah.
was the big question for me, and William Shatner answered it, frankly.
Well, okay. Well, it's good to hear, because I was really moved by the way he talked about it, and because you always saw him as being this kind of gun ho, very independent person, and but then after he had that experience, he was so taken aback by his own change of perspective that I don't know. Reading the article, I felt like, okay, well, this is something that maybe a lot of people could benefit from this experience. Sounds
Yes.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, people have termed it a billionaire joyride, and certainly you have to be wealthy to take even that suborbital flight. Suborbital flight is in the, let's say around a million, depending on where the tickets end up falling out. An orbital flight is tens of millions. We know that. So you have to be wealthy right now. But I think it is absolutely not a billionaire joyride. It is the education of an influential person who has the ability to help shape the Earth's future for the better. It is, to me, critically important that these people get up there, um, and if they're spending their money, that's fine. That these people get up there so they can come back to Earth and do something with their wealth and their fame and their power. Um, William Shatner was very interesting. I think the most important comment that I heard in his post-flight interview, right there by the capsule with Jeff B, that impromptu thing, was that don't distract me. I want to remember this. I never want to forget what I just went through. I have to imprint this on my memory. Um, that those weren't his exact words. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but pushing away the champagne, saying no, I want to remember this. Um, that is what it's like. It is that moving, particularly for a guy like that that's lived a full life and an amazing life. He said one other thing that I think is going to be largely misinterpreted. He said later it was like going to a funeral.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be widely misinterpreted.
Well, that's why
What
I
he
ended up reading
meant,
his article.
yeah, is that in the article too?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think what he meant by that is the contrast between the blackness, where he, filmed all of his films. He had all this experience with space being full of life, but what he saw when he went up was nothing.
Yeah.
And when he looked back, he saw all this teeming life on Earth, and the contrast for him was really remarkable. But instead of what most astronauts do is they focus back on Earth at the life there, and they're awed by it. He focused on the blackness, and it scared the heck out of him. And I completely get it. Either way, he was deeply, deeply moved, and I think is using his fame and his platform to talk about this and help do one more chapter in his life.
I was, yeah, deeply moved by his article, and mentioned that the fact that he said it was felt like a funeral. That was something that compelled me to read it, because I was like, what does he mean by this? It was sort of and it was a provocative
Yeah.
intro for sure. But yeah,
Yes.
I mean, when you look out into the vastness of space, I mean, the fact that you have to go to such great lengths to actually find a planet like ours in the universe. I mean, in other galaxies, maybe we have maybe a 1% chance, or these types of planets are of the 1% range. Exoplanets typically are like vast oceans, or they're the vast deserts. But this type of planet is very rare, simply because of its proximity to the sun, and the fact that we're able to actually sustain life, and the fact that Jupiter has been able to keep a lot of the larger meteorites, comets, other things from completely demolishing the planet. And then our moon has also taken a lot of hits from the shooting gallery as well. So it's a really special planet, and I don't know. I was thankful to read the article and just kind of have that perspective from somebody who's very well known and say, hey, this place is special. You should probably take note.
Let me ask you something.
What's
Do
up?
you think we would recognize life from elsewhere in the universe if we saw it? If it was hydrocarbon based like us, certainly. But are we guaranteed to recognize that it's life if we find it or stumble on
That's
it?
a great question, because sometimes you don't know what you're looking at until you know what you're looking at. Because we have all these devices that we measure life by our known um, perspectives, but if you step outside of that, I mean, there's probably so much more that we haven't even touched on. I mean, our ability to take in even what's real and lifelike in our own solar system is sort of, it's limited.
Yeah, here's an analogy I use. If you step into an ant pile, put your foot
Yeah.
into it, does the ant recognize you as life, or does the ant only recognize that its home has been disrupted?
That's a great analogy. Um, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
didn't. That was a rhetorical question. I didn't mean that you had to
no,
answer
it's
that.
fair. It's fair. But you're actually reminding me of a conversation that I've had with another astronaut, our friend Nick Patrick, but talking about the probability of alien visits in our own solar system. And do you believe that we've been visited by aliens? I'm just going to throw that out there as kind of like a sidebar question. We can remove it later if you don't want to, but I don't know. I thought I'd at least ask you the question, because we are kind of primitive on a scale of like interstellar travel, and we haven't done anything like that. So do you think that there's a probability that we've been visited, and there these crafts around the Earth that are probable video footage has shown? Do you think that's from our planet or from other planets?
I think there's three questions that a person should answer or think about and ponder. Is there life elsewhere in the universe? Almost absolutely for sure there is.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Second is that we alluded to, would we recognize it if we saw it? I think that's a coin toss. The third is, has it visited here? And if you think we would recognize it, has it visited here? I would say almost certainly not. If you look at the timeline of the universe and the time that intelligent people have been on Earth, it's a paper cut in this, 13 billion year timeline. And just the timing alone suggests that it's statistically impossible. Not impossible, improbable. So those are my answers right now today.
Also, the fact that our planet is fairly small, and it's not necessarily set up like a typical exoplanet that would sustain life. And the fact that if you look at it, well, as William Shatner did, you look out into the vastness of space and all the different planets and stars out there. It's like nothing's gonna see us and be like, oh yeah, I want to go there. It
Yeah,
seems highly
I will tell you that
improbable.
the atolls like the Bahamian Islands and the Great Barrier Reef, those atolls are really, really beautiful, and they scream life to me, which of course is probably where life started. But from space, they're incredibly beautiful, and in fact, that is where I would land my spacecraft if, to my surprise, it being hundreds of feet deep in water. Yes, it is quite a beautiful planet. It is attractive. I'll say that.
When you get close enough, yeah, yeah. I remember that picture that you took of Turks and Caicos, and actually inspired my own visit to the island because of that picture that you took from the International Space Station. But those areas are really, I mean, there's, if you're going to be cruising by the planet, you'd be like, oh hey, that looks nice, that looks friendly.
Well, if they were like us,
Yeah, that's
um,
the other thing.
that's right.
Okay.
The moon Io, the Jupiter's moon Io, is full of volcanoes and sulfur jets and all sorts of wild stuff. That might look attractive to you. The reds and oranges and yellows, if you were a different person, come from a different place.
That's the other thing. You'd have to be able to manage, sustain life within the boundaries of your own biology.
That's right. And that may be very different conditions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're born on a different planet, absolutely.